Clara Naum is an international certified life coach, esteemed author, and active contributor to an award-winning educational program that has positively impacted countless lives. Clara supports her clients, including top executives, high-performance athletes, and celebrities in the US and around the world, to overcome their own perceived limitations, connect with themselves, find purpose, and achieve authentic success in their lives, businesses, and relationships. She also trains and supports teams in their leadership journey through conscious leadership and emotional intelligence in various health organizations and corporations around the world, including Keck Hospital, the Cancer Research Institute, the University of Southern California, the Martin Luther King Hospital, Young Life, Universidad Nacional de Córdoba, and Hong Kong University. With an MBA in business and in spiritual science, a master's degree in spiritual psychology, and certification as a soul-centered professional life coach from the renowned University of Santa Monica, Clara possesses extensive knowledge in psychology, spirituality, and business. Her diverse qualifications and experience as a professor, trainer, coach, and workshop facilitator enable her to lead groups with expertise and empathy. Her unique coaching style has garnered global recognition, attracting clients and workshop participants from around the world. Clara connects with individuals from various backgrounds and cultures and has coached individuals at all levels, ranging from the manufacturing line employees to business owners, healthcare professionals, lawyers, CEOs, and celebrity. Her volunteer work extends to individuals in prison, guiding them towards finding purpose and meaning in life. Clara is a published author of 3 books, including the bestseller, The Real Meaning of the F Word, Forgiveness as a Path to Freedom, a profound exploration of forgiveness and its potential to liberate individuals. Clara's commitment to uplifting others has earned her accolades such as the Service to Humanity Award and the Local Hero Award in the US. Clara Naum, welcome to the LifeLab. Thanks so much for joining us on Zoom today.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you.
It's really our pleasure, honestly, and appreciate so much you being here with the time difference and everything, because you're based in the States, right?
Los Angeles, yes.
In
exactly.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, south of Los Angeles, Orange County.
In Orange County.
Actually, yes, Newport Beach. I'm at my office at Newport Beach right now. Mm-hmm.
And Clara, the opening of the episode, we've explained a bit about your background, but I'd love you to start with sharing a bit, just your account of your background and how you became interested in life coaching and spiritual psychology.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes. As you know, and you already mentioned, my background is in business. I have a master's in business, and I have been working in the States in business. I did that for an extended period of time, but I was always interested in higher states of consciousness and the meaning of life and purpose. And for certain reasons that I'm going to mention later on, I decided to go into business. But when working in business, and I was fairly successful at that point, I was taking 3 companies here in the States, Southern California, to quality certification here and in different parts of Europe at the same time. So while doing that, the thing that really just touched my heart and made me really do it was being in touch with the people I was working with. Mm-hmm. Being able to work with the top executives and people on the floor and really hearing them, listening to what was that they really wanted. So inspire them to achieve the unachievable at that moment in order to be able to be successful what we had to do. So I was able to be the first woman in the US to be able to take those companies to certification in record time. But that kind of success was great. But for me, connecting with people from a different level, it didn't matter if it were people on the floor, top executives, was what made my heart sing, per se. So after that, I decided that I needed to do something different. And actually was coaching them at the same time while using everything that I had to do in order to be successful with the project. Psychology gave me the tools in order to understand human behavior, but spiritual psychology, that in a sense is the evolution of Jungian psychology, transcendental or transpersonal psychology, gave me the space and the container to understand human consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
What is deep, what is hidden in the unconscious, why we do the things we do, why we don't do the things we say we want to do, understand life and life purpose. So that's the reason that I became really interested into that, my own life, and to use that with my clients. So I turned from business to psychology, coaching, and spiritual psychology, and I use everything because actually what I do is when leadership meets spirituality. So I use all those tools in service to the client. I don't know if I answered your question,
Yeah,
but I
no,
like to do that in a nutshell.
it's amazing. And like, how far back would that? So you were working in the business world, in the corporate world, and then you realized, inadvertently you were coaching your colleagues and the
Absolutely.
leadership.
Yes.
So the transition, how far back was that from when you left the business world
Yeah,
into life coaching?
2000.
And so, okay, so
Long.
over 20 years ago.
Yes, exactly. Over 20 years ago. Mm-hmm.
And did you start, I know that you've authored 3 books, including one that's
Yes.
very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the true meaning of the F word, right? About
Of the F
forgiveness.
word.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's a great
Yes.
title. Did you start with, you obviously started coaching first, right? Or you, and then,
Yes, I was still working in the business world and I was doing coaching. Not business coaching, but supporting people to get in touch with themselves so they could really overcome their mind, their thoughts, their judgments, to be themselves and achieve the unachievable per se.
mm-hmm.
And actually accepting themselves so they could really achieve whatever they wanted. So I was doing that in the business world, but I wanted a deeper experience. So at the same time, I was going to school to do psychology, that's something that I wanted to do when I grew up in Argentina, and because different situations I couldn't. So I did psychology, and then I said, this is not enough. I want tools so they are not stuck in or whatever happened in their lives.
Mm.
So I did coaching. And I wanted, as I said before, the spiritual part, because in a sense, my belief is that we are all living a human experience. So how can divine beings live in a human experience. So how can I support people to live that experience so they impact their lives in a positive way and they impact the world in a positive way?
Mm-hmm. And how you work with all types of clients, like, from very successful CEOs, business leaders across the world, to, executives, to people in prison, to celebrities, so all different types of people. How does the role of spirituality come into your work when you're, in your coaching practice, and how would you describe it helps your clients?
Yes, first I want to clarify that spirituality is separate from religion, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes.
not related to religion. So spirituality, as I said before, is being in touch with who you really are. So if you want to be successful, you need to peel the layers so you're really authentic. So it doesn't matter if I'm
Mm-hmm.
working with an inmate or a lifer that is in prison, or someone who is extremely successful in the business world, or actresses that I work with several actresses here in Hollywood, people, celebrities, all kind of people, all walks of life.
Mm.
But one way, the common denominator is that they need to get in touch with who they are in order to be who they want to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So spirituality would be is opening the door to access that higher state of consciousness that allows you to be you.
Mm-hmm. And when, I mean, that's interesting when you link it to what it means to be successful, which is kind of the theme of this podcast. What does success mean to you personally, and how has that evolved over time? You know, especially because you're working with people from all different walks of life and coaching them on what success would mean for them. How do you define it?
Yes, that's a great question, and actually, that's men and women are searching for success all the time, right? Like it's something that we need to achieve because it's outside of us. But if we do something that we go inside in order to experience success, the search changes dramatically. So otherwise, we couldn't say that an inmate in prison can consider himself success, or we cannot say that a top executive who is managing multi-billion companies doesn't feel successful sometimes, even though they have that measure of success. So in order to really achieve that, for me, success as healing is not a destination, but it's a journey. So it's a journey and evolves depending on your own evolution. So for me, was very associated with external validation and recognition at some point, and with everything I was able to achieve. And that would give me reasons to be proud of myself. And I'm not saying that that's not good, but authentic success is when you feel that you are in alignment with your values, your mission, your purpose. And let me say something, your purpose, your life purpose, doesn't have to be the same one all the time. You evolve as a person, as a soul, and you can change and want different things. So success could mean something different in different parts of your life. For me, at this moment in my life, I feel successful when I feel, as I said before, that I'm in alignment with my values, my mission, and I can impact people so they can impact others and then can impact the world in a positive way. So it's about creating positive impact in transformation in the world through my clients and through the work I do. When I am able to do that, I feel that I'm on purpose, I'm on my path, and that means success for me at this moment. So for me, that's authentic success.
Yeah, that's very the impact that you're having through all the people that you coach is incredible. I mean, if all of those people are, you know, then going out and living their lives in a much more authentic way, no matter, you know, whether, like you said, it's a CEO of a huge company or an actress or an inmate in prison, that's incredibly powerful when you see the effect of how it trickles down and to the other people in their lives.
Absolutely, it has a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yes, if I'm working with just with one person, and whatever that person does in the world impacts others, we are creating change. We are transforming ourselves, and because of that transformation, we are transforming the world in a better place. And that's what I want, actually. That's what I want. I want to create impact, and I want to do something that is meaningful. And in a sense, that's the legacy that I want to leave when I'm not here.
You know, the industry of life coaching, I mean, it's obviously relatively kind of new. I mean, in the last maybe 20 years, people have learned about it, or it's become, and now it's quite common. A lot of people, or I think it's recognized, I'm sure you'll agree, that with business leaders, that it's something that's quite fundamental to help them, you know, reach the optimal level of performance and things like that, that they have a life coach. But can you share I mean, your life coaching it's sort of a little bit more profound because you're bringing the whole spiritual psychology aspect into it. Could you share an example of a client that you worked with who experienced a significant transformation, and what were the key factors that contributed to how they succeeded in their transformation or led to their transformation?
Mm-hmm. First, I want to mention that the kind of coaching that I do, that is conscious coaching, so we can become conscious of what's causing us to be stuck, or not only stuck, but to not really use all our gifts and skills and our potential, right? So it's not for the faint of heart, because as you said, it's not just because of the spirituality, is being able to face yourself, ourselves. Sometimes it's not easy. Uncovering and unearthing what we experience inside takes willingness and courage. So using all these aspects, and as you mentioned, it has become very popular. But in order to be really beneficial, the coach you're working with needs to do their own work. You cannot contain others, and you cannot lead others if you do not lead yourself and you don't do your inner work. That being said, it requires, as I said, willingness and courage. Most of the clients I work with, and some clients I work for a really extended periods of time, sometimes they come for maintenance, right? After they have worked with me for years, they change goals, purposes, different kind of things, or they just want to, exactly like you take your car for maintenance, you need to do what's going on in my life, or maybe it's a new relationship, new job, new purpose, different things. So most of them have experienced extraordinary transformation. One example, I work, and I have been working, I still work with that person, and he's very well known and famous. And when I started working with him, he had already achieved a fair amount of success. But when we started working together, he wanted to experience more peace. He was in search of peace. So because of the work we did, he was able to discover inside of him what's going on that preventing him from experience authentic freedom and being in peace, instead of searching for peace outside of him. He discovered that he was, even though he was very successful in the business world, and not only the business world, but very famous around the world, he was looking for something that was already inside. In order to get to that point, we did deep inner work, and through that, uncover the layers and old wounds. We were able to uncover patterns and how he related to others through those patterns. So changing the belief system, being able to face that, was really very beneficial for him. And he was able to change from searching for peace, from experiencing peace at a deeper level, feeling free, and that change on not only how he felt, but his relationships. The relationship he had with himself was totally different, or maybe inexistent, and the relationship he had with others. He was in the process of writing a book at that moment, and because of the deep work we did, he changed the book because all of his healing experience, and now he was able to reach the potential that he hasn't been able to reach until that point. Changed the book, and it just became a New York bestseller. So honoring what he didn't know was real in his life. So being able to be authentic, he was able to be successful within himself and in the outside world. That's one example. And then just before we got into this call, I got a message from someone, and she's actually in Madagascar at this moment, in charge of several companies. And I've been working with her for the last 2 years. very difficult. As you know, being a woman in a men's world, I have experienced that 20 years ago when I mentioned when I started business. So I was supporting her to feeling that she deserved whatever she was receiving, and it was okay for her to play big and not be quiet and small in a male environment. So because of the work we've done, she just texted me saying that she was feeling really powerful, amazing, happy with herself. 5 years ago, she was considering that not only resigning, but resigning from life. So the deep work that we have done allow her to take care of herself, love herself, accept herself, and making a space for her to be successful in the world. And as I said, she's managing several companies around the world, feeling that she deserves that.
That's what I really like about the type of coaching that you do, because I think that there's a perception, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, when people look at sort of life coaching or therapy or, you know, spiritual psychology, do you think that there's sometimes a preconception about that you sort of have to check out of your normal life and what you're trying to achieve to work on that, and then, you know, you can't sort of go back to, like, for example, if someone has burnout, I mean, burnout's a specific situation, but what I mean is that this type of therapy can actually make you more successful in the business world, or, you know, it's very tailored to, because it's looking inside, it's really tailored to helping you perform even in your career, right? Because I think that sometimes people look at therapy or life coaching as something that you kind of, you know, they don't necessarily connect it with success in careers. Do you think that that's true?
Totally, absolutely. And some of those terms, even nowadays, even spirituality for some people or coaching had a bad rap.
Yeah.
Right. So that's something that I do on my own for my personal life, but not for success, my career life. And actually, that's a misunderstanding and misconception, because it's extremely difficult to be really successful in the business world or your career if you do not look inside, if you do not take care of yourself. So one of the things that I want for someone who comes to my office, or we do have these Zoom sessions, is this is not therapy. This is not just coaching. This is not career advice. This is about you. I don't have an agenda. My style of coaching is not a cookie cutter thing. I sit with someone. I connect with that person. I love who they are. And I love the time that we're having, because we are creating. I hold their hands until they see their wings and they do what they really want to do. Sometimes they come and they say, okay, these are my goals. When we finish, actually, those were not their goals. And in order to go and reach that space where they really see what they really want, it takes time. And we need to build those layers. So it's not that you go to therapy and you talk, and then you use that as a crutch. Okay, that's the reason that this happened to me, because I experienced this in my past. No, coaching is only goal-oriented. It's extremely difficult to achieve your goals if you do not go into the unconsciousness and to the unconscious and see what is preventing you from achieving that. So it's like a dance. This is what you want to achieve in the outer world. This is what we need to work in the inner world. And then, of course, making really experiential, because this is your life. And it's like a painting, and you paint that painting the way you like. But if you don't use the colors you want, it's not going to be your life. There's a poem from Rumi that says that the soul has its own ears.
Its own ears.
Yes, its own ears, and the mind doesn't understand. So I would say that part of my work is to bypass the mind so the person can listen to their soul. So then we can bring the mind and the heart into coherence so they can be successful inner and outer, achieving what they want. Because it's not just, okay, this is what happened, these are my crutches. Absolutely not. The purpose is just to understand that, release the crutches, and do what you want to do in the world. Being successful, actually, but in alignment with your soul, with your heart, or what you really want to do.
I think that's, it's really interesting because sometimes you see, Clara, and I'm not sure if this is kind of linked to what you were just saying, but, let's say, for example, with athletes who've reached incredible success, they reach their goals and then it kind of all falls apart, that there's a sort of common trend because they were just so focused on, okay, I want to be the best, whatever, boxer, MMA star, whatever it is, and then they get there and that's taken so much work, so much effort, for years and years and years, and they've been, performing at achieving incredible things, and then they get this goal and then they just, it starts to unravel then because they've just been focused. They haven't done any inner work, right? Or they're lacking something.
There's an emptiness.
There's an emptiness.
An emptiness. And sometimes people define themselves according to the title, the role, or the career. So when that ends, or if that's taken away from you, there's a process, a grief process, and it's like a death. Because if your value, your success, everything is attached to that role, to that goal, there's something missing inside. And they need to either reinvent themselves or to change what they're looking for.
Or do you think
that happens, they need to go inside. I have been working actually with a tennis player, and he was able to achieve the unachievable for him in 2 years. But he got to a point that he started just feeling burnout. He couldn't do it. He was experiencing that self-doubt, lack of confidence. And we really worked hard for, I would say, between 6 months and a year. We worked for longer than that, but for 6 months and a year, because he was just so afraid of failure. And he had experienced failure before, that he was sabotaging himself. So in a sense, it's overcoming those fears, anything that is deep inside that sometimes we don't even know where it comes from, but is hidden in the unconscious. So that's when spiritual psychology, or transpersonal psychology comes in hand to help us to dive deep and see what is preventing. So once we see, we cannot go back to the same place. We can go back, but we are aware now. And then we need to reframe, change, and actually rewire the brain so we can keep achieving what we say we want to achieve. And that happens in relationships too. I work with couples, and certain couples that they want something and they think they want something. But when we go deep into what is that they really want, it's totally different. So that's is creating that space so they can see what's going on, what is preventing them from experiencing that authentic and real success.
That's really interesting. Just on the couples one, I read somewhere recently about somebody who wouldn't date somebody unless they immediately went to couples therapy with them, because the guy this gentleman. I can't remember where I saw it, but he had done a lot of work on himself. So he thought he wanted to approach his relationships, that from the beginning that they would work on what do you think of that kind of approach? And I mean, it's probably difficult to do that. For most people would be afraid if somebody wanted them to do that.
Some people are afraid of that, and but some people, especially in those cases, is more than therapy or coaching is the person willing to do their work, knowing that sometimes, and I work with couples, a celebrity couple, that they're not coming here because they have issues, but because they want to build a container that they respect themselves, they create agreements, and they know that when something happens, they're going to approach that from a place of compassion, empathy, and understanding, knowing that we're all humans and we experience triggers and disagreements. But if we know and we create that space and environment, it's going to be different. So I totally understand what you're saying, because I'm working with people who actually they believe that, and they're creating those spaces so they can relate to each other from a better place.
So it's they're not going for support when they have a problem. They're just going to make sure that the dynamic and of the relationship and the way they communicate.
Absolutely, but most couples who come here, they come when they have issues, right? Some couples, and especially a couple of couples that I have and I'm working with, we have been able to create agreements and create a vision for what they want their marriage or their relationship to be, and to see what's going on when there are disagreements. So one of the things, and I give them tools, different kind of tools, to really deal with conflict. Same way that when I work in corporations, and I'm in charge of a couple of healthcare centers and corporations, and I do emotional intelligence trainings there, and I give them tools to how to manage conflict, right? Conflict is everywhere, with ourselves. We have conflict with ourselves, with others, co-workers, relationships. So I give them tools, and sometimes is finding that space that there's no right or wrong. They can see each other, not that they have to win, but they can see each other from a different perspective and find a solution if they're willing, of course. But yes, I think it's a good idea, not a requirement.
But it's a good idea.
It's a good idea. And I would say there's not only one path. There are so many paths for personal growth and development. So whatever works for every person is fine. But in a sense, it's willing to see inside, so things outside look better. Willing to see and hear the inner critic.
So on that note, what advice would you give to some of our listeners who might be struggling to set their own goals or achieve their own goals for success?
Okay, there are a couple of things. First, we need to become aware, right, of what's going on in our lives. So if we set goals without being aware of what we really want in life, it's difficult to achieve something that maybe is not what we really want. So as I said before, some people come here and say, okay, these are my goals, and we set goals, and then I challenge them. Are those your goals? Is that what you really want? Sometimes they want to travel the world and money for that, and what they want is freedom, because they're not experiencing real freedom in their lives. So it's different, right? And we can also set career goals, totally okay. But setting goals and achieving goals, two separate things. First, we need to become aware of what is it we really, really, really want. in order to become aware, extremely important to observe ourselves. What are our thoughts? Challenge our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Don't believe everything you think. And when you're really aware, we set those goals. If you mentioned they're struggling achieving the goals, right?
Yeah, or that's one, achieving their goals and then setting their goals first and then achieving.
Exactly. Setting goals probably is because they are not sure of what they really want, as I said before. Achieving goals is because they're sabotaging themselves, because it says procrastination. When we procrastinate, most of the time we're doing what exactly we want to do. I said, we're procrastinating. I'm not doing that. And that's the reason I'm doing this. No, you're not. Procrastination is doing what you want to do. So question yourself why you're doing what you want to do at that moment instead of taking the actions that you need to take in order to get what you want to get.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a process of really challenge those goals, setting actions that are attainable and that those are your goals, so that you're listening to your voice. And it's not because that's what you think you should be doing or you need to be doing. Because when that voice is not coming from inside and we are pleasing someone else, maybe those are not our goals. And that's the reason that we're procrastinating or struggle to achieve those goals. And of course, overcoming ourselves in order to do the things that we need to do in order to achieve what we need to achieve or what we want to achieve, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good advice. That's good advice. What are some self-care practices or kind of rituals that you personally find beneficial for maintaining a healthy balance in your life and that you've observed works for, I mean, like things like meditation, which I think, people know that's, generally accepted that it's a really healthy, it's a huge kind of building block of having a healthy life. But things like that, are there things people can do that help them, spiritually and in their just in their lives to achieve, their goals and success as they define it by themselves?
Personally, I keep doing my inner work. So in a sense, I call it the process of detoxifying myself, my mind, my body, my emotions. So I want to be a safe container for others so I can support them in their journey. So I need to do the same thing with myself. In order to do that, as I said, I keep doing my work. I participate at least in one retreat or something that I like, that is related to either meditation retreat, developing even more peace in my life. I'm a learner of life, so I keep studying different things. I keep working on my evolution, the evolution of my consciousness, my heart. And I practice meditation every day and deep gratitude. And when I say deep gratitude, it's really being in touch with gratitude for the small things, for everything. Just being grateful instead of being I'm grateful for. It's just being grateful. When we get to that state of being grateful, but it's just we have to really do that consciously. Something changes inside. And I like to do that when I take a bath of salt. I do that almost every day. I love bath salts, and I'm able just to disconnect from everything and going into that state of gratitude. So meditation, gratitude, taking care of your mind, I practice exactly the same exercises that I give my clients, and that those are one part of the book. There's what do you do when you're upset, when you're triggered, and just going back to the basics. What is it I think? Now, for me, it's also the connection with the divine, and that's the reason that I keep doing at least 1 or 2 retreats a year.
The connection with the divine.
Nurturing that.
That's and as a life coach, what are there some pieces of advice or wisdom that you particularly share with young people that maybe are still at school or have just graduated and they're starting out and they're in their careers or relationships at the beginning, to help them find meaning and purpose? Because I can imagine that it's different, like you said, at different stages of your life. Is there something particularly for younger people that's helpful?
I would say that applies to everyone, but I believe that all of us, we have gifts, right? Our unique gifts and the unique expression of our gifts. In a sense, those are hidden inside of us. So being aware of that, so we don't have unopened gifts.
Unopened gifts.
Unopened gifts. So being aware of that and nurture that. And for that, I would say, don't be afraid of judgments of others. Don't be afraid of judgments of others. So that applies to all of us, to humankind in general, right? And be aware of the inner critic.
Be aware of your inner critic.
Yes, yes. So the inner critic is a controller, tends to control how we think, how we behave, the things we do and the things we don't do. And one way or the other, there's a hidden benefit for that. So in a nutshell, I would say that.
So don't be afraid of the inner critic, and don't
listen to be aware of the inner critic.
And don't be afraid to be judged.
Yes, and don't be afraid to be judged. And it's okay to be yourself, and it's okay that it's going to take time sometimes to really be in touch with who you are. It's an evolution.
Especially if you're, quite young. Sometimes it takes a while to even know who you really are. I mean, well, it does, right? It can take a whole lifetime to maybe even know who you really are.
And we change.
Yeah.
We change. What we want changes. It's an evolution. So nothing is static. So being okay with that and accepting the shadows so we can accept ourselves completely allows us to navigate the journey with more grace.
Clara, what are you most proud of in your career? I mean, you've won some amazing accolades and you've done some incredible, over the last 23 years, incredible work. Can you think of what you're most proud of, or what comes to mind?
I would say that is following the call of my heart and not being afraid to change paths, even though one way or the other, I'm using everything that I've done and everything was helpful and useful, but following the call of my heart, even though it looked not the right thing to do at that point. So yes.
And what about regrets? Do you have any regrets?
As the song says, I could say that the song says regrets. I had a few.
But you did it your way.
Yes, exactly. So I would say that when I have a regret, I tend to process that and see what was the purpose of what happened, what can I learn from that, and I'm not stuck into that. Otherwise, I'm stuck into the past, and I start fighting against something that I cannot change. So peace is a cessation of againstness for me. And to be peace is to stop fighting with the past. And the regrets are in the past, right? So it doesn't mean that there are a lot of things, as the song says, regrets, I have a few, but I cannot change that. What I can change is my perception of that, and I use that to build even more resilience in my life, accepting what could have been and it wasn't, the things that I wanted to be different, and what can be different now in the present.
That's very insightful. Yeah, I think that's just a real life lesson, isn't it? Trying to look at things that you perceive as mistakes or regrets and kind of taking the learnings from it to leverage to improve your life generally, or see, taking the sort of eliciting the wisdom out of it to make your life better moving forward, that you might not have ever been able to do if you hadn't had that mistake or regret.
Absolutely. And not only that, it's just be patient with yourself when you're learning the lessons. Some people say, and they're so into personal growth, okay, what's the lesson here? When we are in the middle of it, we don't see the lesson. And that's the last thing we want to see. It's just we need to experience things fully so we can complete cycles and we can end cycles, and we do not need to repeat those again. So the lesson may appear later on, or maybe it's going to be a different lesson that you don't even see, or sometimes it's a regret. When we started, we say, okay, my background is in business. My father wanted me to study business, and I wanted to study philosophy, psychology since I was young. I studied my career in Argentina. I grew up in Argentina, and I did business, and I finished my master's degree in business, came to the States a long time ago. But do I have regrets? No, because I have been able to be really successful in the business world thanks to that. I was able to understand business from a different perspective. I relate to executives in a different way because of the work that I have done in business, and gives me tools. So do I have regrets that I didn't start my path before? No, but I'm proud that when I had this call that I said, it's now or never. That's what I thought at that point. And it meant changing and living success and leaving a lot of things in order to pursue what I really wanted to do with others. It's just the regret didn't exist, and I used all of that. I would never have changed anything that has happened in my life, because everything gave me something, even though the things that I really didn't like. And at some point, I wish it was different. But that wish, if I stay in that wish, I'm not accepting. And if I'm not accepting that, I'm using my energy in order to be against something instead of using my energy for my own evolution.
Thank you, Clara. And lastly, I just want to ask you, are there any books or movies that you'd like to call out that really impacted your life or your learnings, that you think it would be nice for people to check it out or read or watch?
Okay, those are the movies. A lot of movies, but the one that I really loved, those are movies from the 80s. For some reason, Les Uns et les Autres, that is known by the name Bolero, El Bolero de Ravel.
Bolero de Ravel.
Yes, and it's a French movie, Les Uns et les Autres. impacted me in a way that is a tapestry of life, different generations and the interconnectedness, right? The joy and the suffering, the essence of the human being, I would say. Schindler's List also was very impactful in my life. And again, is about the human essence and the joy and the suffering, decisions, the pain, and how that impacts life and impacts communities and the world one way or the other. So those, I would say that those are the most impactful movies. For books, The Unbearable Lightness of Being of Milan Kundera, that I love. I love that book from also from the 80s, I think. And at that point, I read that in Spanish, La insoportable levedad del ser. And that for some reason touched my heart very profoundly. And a book that I consider must is small book, short book, but is by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. That in a sense is, as you know, he was in prison in concentration camps, and yes, exactly, and how we can develop an attitude to overcome whatever is going on in our lives. So he developed also certain ways on how to access those deeper and higher states of consciousness and really live those, so he can change the outcome, at least inside of his mind. So that's very powerful. I keep reading that, and I think it has had a big impact in the service work I do in prisons. That's a volunteer work that we can sometimes, the only thing that we can change is the freedom that we have. The only freedom we have is to change our attitude and how we respond instead of reacting with the circumstances. And the other book that is also very difficult to read, and I read that when I was young, was The Divine Comedy, Dante Alighieri, and very difficult to read, but that, in a sense, was always the transcendental, looking for truth, what's real, what's not. And that was always something that really I was very interested on the transcendental and mystical experiences and the behavior and life, the human essence on different points of life. So yeah, that impacted me when I was young.
Thank you for sharing those tips on movies and books for people to check out themselves. Those are some amazing examples of works of literature and movies that have a really positive impact on people. Clara, I'd like to just thank you again for taking the time to do this interview, and for people who want to read your books, which especially the big bestseller, the meaning of the F word, forgiveness, they can do that on your website, right? claranaum.com.
Yes. Amazon around the world.
Amazon.
Yes, and it's the real meaning of the F word, because actually part of the work that I do is based on forgiveness. And it's been very controversial at some point and very well received in different parts of the world, Asia and Europe, to really introduce conscious work and forgiveness into the business world. And actually, people say forgiveness is for your personal life, and actually are not the business world. And without forgiveness, we don't give ourselves the chance, the real chance to succeed. So we are trapped in a story, and we are trapped because everything that is going around us. So it's it's an evolution of the heart, the forgiveness.
Thank you, Clara. It's been wonderful speaking to you, and I really think that and hope that this interview will help a lot of people who listen, and even to learn more about exploring, doing inner work and taking the time to do that. It's something like, it's like going to the gym for your brain, right? A lot of people don't want to go to the gym, but the minute you do it, you feel better afterwards. And it's something that you can't just do once or twice. You have to do it. It's something that you kind of do for life, really working on yourself.
Absolutely. And it's not something that you have to, it works differently for everyone. And reality is that when we have things that disturb our peace,
Mm-hmm.
it's an issue that we're experiencing. So being willing to sit in the uncomfort and being aware of what's disturbing that, inner or outer, is
Mm-hmm.
going to bring you awareness so you can be successful. And it doesn't have to look one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's just your way. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Clara. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
very
your
much,
time today.
Siobhan. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and thank you to your listeners too. Thank you.
Thank you.